Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea, product marketer here at Dream Data, and welcome to Attributed, a podcast hosted by Dream Data. You can find this and other episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Today, we are diving into how to build repeatable, high impact, account based marketing plays without massive budgets or complex setups that I think we're a little too familiar with. And to help us do that, I'm joined by Mason Cosby, founder and CEO of Scrappy ABM. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for
So I
having me.
think you should kick us off. Just give us the quick rundown: who you are, what Scrappy ABM is, and who you
No.
built it for.
Hi, Mason Cosby. Already referenced founder Scrappy ABM, but essentially what that actually means is I happened to start a company that built ABM programs because I did it a couple of times decently well, and I've hired a team of brilliant people. So our group has generated about 100 million in the past 3 years in revenue. I've personally done about 20 million of that 100. So I did a couple things okay. And now we've got some really practical, super repeatable lessons that we've done across about 40 different companies in the past 3 years. So I know that this is not a one-hit wonder type situation. I know that this just works. So that's the goal for today, is to teach you everything that I know, and then you can go do it on your own.
In an hour, easy peasy, right? We got this.
Yeah.
For anyone joining us live, please do ask questions as we go. Mason and I agreed, just ask whatever's in your heart, and we'll just take those questions as they come. Um, but great. Thank you so much. So, because we only have 1 hour and we have to teach everyone, all the B2B marketers, everything you know about Scrappy ABM, I think as a product marketer, I first want to understand what problems you are seeing. What made you start Scrappy ABM 3 years ago? And are you still seeing the same problems today, or have they changed?
No, there's the same problems. It's so when you look at ABM, um, it's getting better. So I shouldn't say it that way, but I think the first and biggest problem that I kind of consistently saw is that people were buying technology first to inform what they should be doing with an account-based marketing program. And the reason that's a challenge is typically when an executive blesses something, they've got about a 3 to 6 month grace window. And before they're expecting, what are the major results that we should be seeing? Some of you are like, I have 3 weeks, and I'm sorry for you, but a lot of the times it's like 3 to 6 months. The challenge is if you go tech first, you buy the technology, you spend about 1 to 2 months setting it all up and implementing it and getting it integrated and learning your way around the system, and then you start planning, and then you start executing, typically in like month 3 or 4. And by the time you actually get to the 6 month mark, you've actually been running things for like maybe 6 weeks. And then people are like, well, where's the revenue? And it's like, well, it's coming. And then they're like, no, it's not. And then they cut the ABM program. And then often what I've seen is that people get cut because it was 6 months that didn't do anything. The preferred approach that we take is, let's decrease learning curves, and like let's first prove that ABM works in your organization by using your current tooling and technology. So that's like the first major problem. Now, in that context, there's 5 other problems that come up. So I'll just breeze through those super quick. One is targeting. So man, this is super political because customer base, they want to say, well, we can work with everybody. And like they have a pulse and a credit card, we should work with them. And the pulse is
Yeah,
optional. But realistically, like we have to limit it to our best fit customers. That's the first thing. Second thing is leadership
I
buy-in.
co-signed this, by the way, as a PMM. Hard co-sign on that one.
For shit. The leadership though doesn't buy in often. So, and it comes back to targeting. And the real secret, kind of insidious thing sometimes, is that your leadership team has made promises to your board that you don't know about, and they've got to hit those promises. And the threat of ABM is that we limit ourselves, or we actually say, hey, I know we said we were going to go get these kinds of customers because that looks really sexy to the board, but we have no reasonable justification that we would ever work with those customers. Like, they're not a good fit for us at all. And I know that we said we were going to go get them, but like, it's actually not a good idea, which is really hard for you to say as an ABM manager to your CEO. So like leadership just doesn't buy in. Third is lack of sales and marketing alignment. So the running joke is like, marketing is the arts and craft department, and then sales is not getting anything from marketing. So when you come and say, hey, why don't we work together? They're like, no. So that doesn't typically go super well. Fourth is actual resourcing. So ABM is a cross-functional effort, and often it just kind of gets thrown at one person. And I lovingly named her marketing manager Susie, and Susie does her best, but Susie had a full-time job already, and Susie ends up getting fired, which is really sad for Susie. And then last but certainly
Very
not least is
unfair.
yeah, super unfair. Really feel bad for Susie, but I know lots of Susies, and I built this business to help Susie. And then last but certainly not least is measurement, which, Dream Data, I think, can help with on that front. But people don't really know what is working and what's not working. So that's the high level.
Okay. So you just mentioned a lot
Just
of
a couple
problems,
problems.
which is like a drag. And you said that you're still seeing the same problems today. But I guess before we dig into the solutions, and I know we will get there, but I guess I'm also left wondering when someone says that they want to do ABM, and maybe when they come to Scrappy ABM for help, what do they usually mean? And in their understanding what they want to do ABM, what are they missing?
Yeah. Um, the the typical thing that they're looking for is I I'm going to speak from the perspective of a prospect. So we have quite a few customers that have come in that have done like lead gen, and we have a shocking number of customers that are like, we've generated 20,000 MQLs a month for the past 5 years. So like they're coming from that model where lots of MQLs, where the definition of the MQL changed on a pseudo frequent basis with a 1 to 10% conversion rate from MQL to meeting. And then that meeting was typically disqualified at like a 50% rate. Now, the challenge with that is they've tried to make the ABM shift previously, but big numbers make people feel safe. And what we're intentionally doing is saying, when it all shook out at the end, it was still a small number. Like, but we're skipping the big number part of like 20,000 MQLs. And we're just like, well, we got these 300 accounts that are our perfect fit customers to come to our workshop. And like, that's actually a greater win than the 20,000 MQLs. But we like to hear 20,000 versus 300. So what we help them, or sorry, there's one other kind of insidious thing. There's also a lot of people and a lot of process and a lot of structure that supports the 20,000 MQL model. And if you don't navigate that well, people really get threatened and scared because they are like, well, I know what my job is and my job might change.
Yeah.
So what they come to us to do is to help them identify what can we start with that you're currently running with that is already working, and how do we, instead of doing a turn off the MQL machine, turn on ABM, how do we make an intentional and thoughtful shift over like a 12 to 24 month time frame
Mhm.
that does create greater efficiency, greater ROI, all of the right buzzwords that we should talk about. But it's to help them navigate it, because most of the time our clients have never navigated it, whereas we have navigated it literally 100 times. Like, so that's the core thing that people are aiming to solve is, I don't know how to actually make this shift, but I know it's the right thing.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I think it can also, what's that saying, like how do you eat an elephant or something like that? It just turns into this like massive monster that ABM, and we're going to get into that, but at this point we should all know ABM also requires the support of different departments.
Yes.
So it can turn into a big elephant. And I think that can seem very scary when your leadership comes and it's like, you, Susie, you have been chosen to implement ABM. And Susie's like, ah. um,
Yeah.
Going back to what you said earlier, that what you were seeing was like the way to solve. So again, Susie is told we need to implement ABM because I read a really cool article by Mason Cosby. Go. And then the problem that you're seeing still is that people probably Google ABM or ask an LLM, and boom, software is sort of posed as the answer to the problem. So then they buy it. And what I'm hearing you say is like, you don't believe that that needs to be necessary, at least not for your first ABM program. But what is one non-negotiable that you do need in terms of software?
CRM, marketing automation, and some form of orchestrated sales outreach tool, which is a really fancy way of saying, like, how do you do sequencing? If you have those three things, you're pretty good to go.
Okay. So
Now, I
that's
also
go ahead.
one quick caveat. I'm so sorry. Some ABM purists in this will say you could do it with a spreadsheet, and like, yes, you can. Like, but it's really hard and it's not repeatable. And then what ends up happening is someone has all the institutional knowledge in their brain and then they leave their job. And then people get a series of Google Drive folders with spreadsheets and they're like, this isn't a plan. We can't do it. And then you end up wasting 12 months. So that's why I like to have it built into the CRM as a structured process that then can be transferred beyond the one person.
Yeah. But I mean, it is called Scrappy ABM. It's not called Excel sheet ABM. Like
No,
it's not called I don't want to do this anymore ABM, because I think I'm going to speak for a lot of people. We do want to get out of spreadsheets to a certain extent.
eventually,
We don't
yeah.
want to live there. So who is it? I guess who is Scrappy ABM for and who is it not for?
Yeah. I'll answer this in two ways. So first, when I think about ABM, who is ABM for specifically? Product market fit, B2B. You've got a dedicated sales team already, so we're not doing founder heroics here, and you've got at least a $50,000 average contract value and at least a 90-day sales cycle. That's typically who we're looking at for ABM. Now, the reason I caveat that is I am about a $2 million business, and I think we have product market fit. But we, as Scrappy ABM, as a business, actually don't work with companies unless they've got around 20 million in annual revenue. They've got 3 to 8 marketers internally, so that they're already bought in on marketing. They've got a dedicated outbound sales team. We typically work with US based companies. They're on HubSpot or Salesforce. So there's some additional caveats. And some people are like, wow, 20 million sounds high. It's really hard to scale to 20 million if you don't have product market fit. So for us, it has just been, it's less of the actual number and it's more, we know they have product market fit because we've worked with some companies in like the 10 to 15 million range. And somehow they have scaled to that range and do not have product market fit.
Yeah.
And it's just like sheer force. So again, that's the thought process.
Yeah, absolutely. So you cannot ABM your way out of bad product market fit. Like if you don't have your market, you
Yeah.
can't like ABM your way out of it.
So if you think about it, the goal of ABM is to go get more of our best customers. Well, it's really
Exactly.
hard to know who your best customers are if you don't know what market you have a fit for. So objectively, people are like, I know we're at like 1 million and we're doing great, but we should do ABM. It's like, maybe. And like, maybe you're the unicorn, but probably not. Like, probably not.
In my experience, no. So, just a shout out again. If y'all have questions, please shoot. Because if not, I'm gonna completely take over this conversation with Mason. So just go ahead. Little reminder. Um, okay, so now we we know when we have to start ABM, we have product market fit. We want to get more of those like best fit customers that understand our value. Um, we understand what Scrappy means. We have the sort of basic tools that we need. Is there anything else that you find teams maybe tend to overthink before they get started?
Oh, yeah. All the time. The greatest thing that the greatest thing I think I have been able to teach anyone is you don't have to start over. We do this ABM in a day workshop that is literally like an 8-hour session, and the subhead to that workshop is you already have 75% of what you need. Let's fill in the gaps because you are already. Let me just take a quick step back. Like if you were to build an ABM program, you are likely going to use data, some different distribution channels, some content in some way to measure success. And you're going to do that a lot at different stages of a program that are intentionally designed to like meet accounts where they are and progress them all the way into becoming an opportunity. It's the same stuff. Like there's only so many channels. There's only so many ways you can make content. There's only so many ways you can track stuff, and there's only so many data sources. So you're using the same things you're already using, but instead of saying, hey, this is our ICP, we're now saying we've taken our ICP, created a validated list, enriched that list, and now we know these are the people we want to go after. And now that we look at this list, well, we know they engage in these channels and they will engage with these kinds of content assets. And then this is how we can measure success based on that. So when you really sit down with the list and you actually like make a good list of folks that you want to go and close, you kind of look at it and you're like, oh, we're already doing organic social. We're already doing email marketing. We're already doing outbound sequencing. We're already doing webinars. Let's nuance our webinar content to be more focused towards this audience. Let's maybe change up some of the content in our organic social posts. Let's maybe change up some of our ad copy a little bit. But like realistically, we're already doing about 75% of the things that we need to do. It's
Mhm.
now nuanced to this specific audience so that it is higher in it's more engaging for them specifically. So
Yeah.
that's the thing that I think a lot of people overcomplicate because they think about ABM. They're like, we have to start over. Like, let's scrap all of it. It's like, actually, no. Like, please don't. You will really, really hurt yourself and take way longer than you need to.
Yeah. I wonder, so it just made me think when you were talking about like let's enrich that list. It just made me think of, yes, I agree with you. A lot of we say the same thing, like starting with attribution. Sometimes you can start without an attribution vendor. It really depends on where you are. But I guess I start putting myself in the perspective of some of our customers and probably some of yours.
Mhm.
What about the information that ABM tools provide around specifically? I'm thinking personalization. So I'm thinking like
Yeah,
buyer intent,
yeah.
account scoring, as you mentioned, enrichment. Like, where do Scrappy teams get that from? Or is it just like you said, like maybe just start with what we have? I don't know.
Yeah, so start with what you have, and then you shouldn't do Scrappy ABM forever. Like you should mature. So inevitably, like those tools do make sense. It's just not the starting point. Because if you think about it from a starting point perspective, again, like the average ABM tech stack that we've seen between data enrichment, ABM platform, sending platform, and just the right level of CRM and marketing automation and outreach software to integrate all of it, you're looking at 200 to 300, sometimes $500,000 like total. Um, it's expensive. And some people are like, "There's no way that's real." I still remember it clear as day. The first time I heard that there was a CMO that walked through their entire ABM tech stack in CMO Coffee Talk, which was hosted by Six Sense, uh, $900,000 for just the technology for the ABM program. So now, granted, they were a multi-billion-dollar company, made sense, but that is the intentional thought process that we take is once you've built out your ABM program and you've used what you have, there's gonna be gaps. Obviously, like there's things that are not gonna work currently, and then you solve that. So the main thing that I try to help people make the shift from is what is the problem to solve? So I like that we started there because for a lot of people, the problem to solve is I don't have an EVM program. And that's actually not a problem. Like that is just a potential solution. So what we would help our clients do is go from the one big hairy amorphous problem that is I don't have an ABM program to I know in detail the 99 problems that I currently have that are like, I don't know how to actually track and attribute our programs at the awareness stage. So we need to have better tracking capabilities at awareness. Great. Like that's a specific problem where you would then go and implement technology or you'd nuance some of your programming to have better tracking capabilities at that stage. But it goes from I don't have an ABM program to here are all the individual problems that we need to solve. And it becomes more of a checklist than anxiety. Seriously, like
Also,
going from I don't have an ABM program to like,
no,
oh,
but
I have.
no, but
Sorry, go
that's
ahead.
also because if you're gonna buy like something with a steep price tag, and sure, maybe they'll give you a bit of a discount because you're not a multi-billion-dollar company, but it kind of puts a target on like, okay, we bought you your shiny product, let's now do ABM,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so now we have gotten the problem. We have also made it really clear we're talking about Scrappy ABM. We're talking about this is your first ABM program. At some point, you can start doing all the fancy tech. You have mentioned a couple of times now, Mason, that something that you have learned in the past 3 years is repeatable processes. And as a PMM, I love me a repeatable process. I guess my first question is not because it's repeatable doesn't mean that it's the same, right? Because I don't think all companies are unique. That's not what I'm saying, but it's not a one size fits all. So, how do you approach repeatable processes
Yeah. Um,
without it being the
so
same process, if that makes sense?
yeah, totally makes sense. And we have two core frameworks that we use for all of our programs. And then outside of those frameworks, everything else is actually custom to all of our clients, which, you know, I could probably, anyway, that's a tangent. Regardless, as we look at those two core frameworks, the first framework is what we refer to as our account progression model. So that is simply there are core stages that almost every account goes through, which is first, do they know you exist? And everyone hates this one. But realistically, I can factually guarantee that if someone knows you exist, they're exponentially more likely to buy from you than those that don't know that you exist. So awareness is kind of important. Next, we then define initial engagement as are they or do they have a problem that they're trying to solve? There's lots of ways you can figure that out, but like, do we have programs that address that they have a problem, and can we track that they have a problem? Third is, are they exploring different solutions? This doesn't mean buying from you. It's just like, are they trying to solve the problem? Because I have lots of problems right now as a business owner. Most of them I'm not trying to solve. Like, they're just not worth the time right now. Like that's real talk.
Yeah.
Next is MQA, which we define as they understand your product as a viable solution. So think of product page, pricing page, schedule, call page, deep dives on case studies, like those kinds of page engagements. Most people don't casually spend their time just looking at product demos. So like that's a good signal. From there, it's then SQA, which is focused more on in the context of BANT, it's more budget and timing because we already have authority and need based on our targeting. And then you've got an opportunity, and then you also have re-engagement. I'll come back to opportunity in a second. Re-engagement is timing was off, but like there's a real opportunity here. It's just gonna take some time to like build the business case internally, what it
Yeah.
looks like. So that's how we think about all ABM programs is through that lens of the account progression model, with the goal being we need to answer questions at each one of those stages. Now, for those of you that are also thinking, well, that sounds like just net new. What about pipeline acceleration or customer expansion? What a great question that I get asked a lot. Your pipeline are account stages. So you just build intentional programming for each stage of your pipeline. So there you go. There's your account progression model for your pipeline. And then when it comes to customer expansion, it's actually the same progression model. It's just instead of brand awareness, it's now product awareness. Because many people have multiple product lines that their customers have no idea exist. Like, fun fact, we have a whole podcast division. No one knows about it because I do a very bad job promoting it. But like, that is like, we have many customers that run a podcast and don't do it with us. It's like, oh, we should solve for that. So like, that's product awareness. So when you have all of those stages mapped out, you then are like, got it. We need to have specific playbooks or programs that address each of those stages for our customers. And there's a second framework that I'll walk through in just a second. But what I want to make sure of is that everybody understands that is the same across almost every company. I'm going to say almost. I think it's every company. Like, everybody needs to know you exist. If they're going to buy from you, they need to have a problem. They need to explore viable solutions. They need to understand your solution. They need to have timing. Like, it needs to be the right time. They need to have money, and they have to book a meeting to actually talk to sales. Unless you're a PLG motion, which you shouldn't be running ABM in the first place. That's a separate conversation. But like that, that's consistent. So we answer those questions with viable playbooks. Before I dig into the playbook structure, any thoughts or questions on that?
I guess it's my only thought it's is always when I see models and frameworks, mind you, also the ones that I have internally, and I'm like, "Ugh, it looks so simple, but then it's not."
Yes.
So I guess my question is, or my thought in this is like, it is really simple. Does it feel as simple during implementation?
Um, so that's where I want to outline this in two ways. One, it is simple, but like that's why it's helpful
Yeah.
because a lot of like that's what we've heard from a lot of people over the past few years is when I explain ABM in that way, they're like, oh, like it's kind of the light bulb moment where they get it for the first time versus like what often you see is a bunch of technical jargon and a bunch of acronyms. But like realistically, like that's what we're trying to do with ABM. So that's the first thing. Second thing, even though it's simple to explain, it's really hard to execute. And like, because how do you measure awareness where most awareness programs happen on social or at things that you don't actually? So I'll give a quick example. This podcast interview, there's like 250 some odd people that were registered. If you watch this, you are now Scrappy ABM brand aware. How do I track and measure that? There's a couple ways I could probably do it, but like realistically, you've got to think through that and then make sure that that ties into your larger program. So though it's simple to outline, it's hard to execute. But the beauty of it is, as referenced earlier, we just went from I don't have an ABM program to now,
Yeah.
those are the right questions to ask, and I don't know the answers, which that's then the thing to solve.
Yeah. And then you take it one step at a time. I think this is also always what we have to remember with models and frameworks. You take it one step at a time.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So now we have the account progression model, and then you talked
Second
about
framework.
so
Yeah.
how do they work together? I
What
guess
a great
first
question.
explain it.
Yeah. So we have the account progression model, which I define really as the ABM strategy. So,
Okay.
like, how do we actually intentionally progress accounts? Then you've got what we refer to as our activation playbooks, which are the tactics. And this breaks down into a 4D framework. So, first is data, then distribution, then destination, then direction. So, data is relatively simple. Who are we going after? Plus, why are we reaching out? Another thing about that is targets and triggers. So, some people have gotten a cold email today, probably all of us. That means you were targeted. Congrats, you're a target. What's missing almost all of the time are triggers. Like there's no reason for them to be reaching out to us other than we hit their ICP criteria and they wanted, again, credit card and pulse.
I was
And that's
about
all
to
they
say
were looking
that.
for.
I have a pulse and a credit card somewhere in my
Yeah.
wallet.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. So that's why you were targeted. Now, when you do targets with specific viable triggers, that actually allows you to nuance and personalize your messaging to that account because it's based on right people and right timing. So that's how you actually get personalized, nuanced, specific messaging. So that's data. Next is in distribution. Once you know who you're going after and why you're reaching out, this is really easy to figure out because it's where did they engage last and where would they engage next. So we think of this in two ways of direct and indirect channels. Direct, think of like emails, DMs, calls. It's typically sales channels. Indirect would be ads, organic social. Like if you showed up to this is actually technically an indirect channel for me to distribute information because it's not my own channel. So a lot of earned stuff or events could be indirect. So that's indirect or that's distribution. Next, we then move into destination. So just where are we sending them? Fun fact: almost every website that I've been to in the past 3 years is really easy to book a call on. You just go to the top right hand corner and press book a call. Most people don't need help with that. Most of the time, our destination in outbound messaging is book a call. What they need is reasons to actually want to book a call. So we think of this through different lenses of content. So is this problem content that helps educate them on why what they're experiencing is so painful? Is this product content that educates them on the ways in which they could solve their problems, typically using some of your products? Or is this proof content, which is we've solved this for people just like you. You should trust us. So it's either problem, product, or proof. It's pretty much it. And then lastly, you have measurement, which is just how do we know that we are winning or losing in the context of this playbook? So at the awareness and initial engagement stages, it's not going to be a booked meeting. It's going to typically be some form of engagement. Like they went to our website based on the pages that we sent them, and we can track that website engagement. And then that triggers the next playbook, which is more retargeting focus, where the goal should be to get them to engage in something where they actually give you a little bit of information. And then you just progress them through the model to the point where they are now super engaged with your brand, have actually understood your product, and now probably just need to actually build a business case, which is when you start to send case study information and ROI calculators and helpful things that help them actually see, oh, this will work directly for me specifically. So that's how I think about it.
Yes. No, and that was very clear. I don't have questions about that one actually.
Cool.
I guess, and I don't want to make it into a big question because I'm going to force you to explain this all over again. That's not what I want. But like, how do teams actually use this in practice? So if we were to
Yeah,
pick one of the stages in the account progression model and then one of the Ds in the 4D framework, like, could you give us some maybe practical examples
for
on
sure.
how they work together?
So we're coming up on event season. So I think of events fairly standardly in the context of three playbooks. So you have pre-event, during event, and post-event. So pre-event would be more of an awareness stage. During the event would be more of an initial engagement stage. And then post-event would be meaningful engagement stage, where the goal is to actually book a meeting post-event to an opportunity. So when you think pre-event, data would be who's actually going to this event. Standardly, there are typically 4 places you could look. So one is if you went to the event previously and you've got tagged people from that past event, it's a high likelihood they're probably going again. Second would be if the event actually gives you the list. And you think about this from a sponsor perspective, yes, but also a lot of events have event apps where people actually log in advance and you can just see who's going to the event. And that becomes a component of your data source. Third would actually just be social. So a lot of people will post on social and say, I'm going to this event. And then you'll see people in the comments that say, I'm also going to this event. You should follow up with those people. And then last and most certainly not least, which is the most underrated, is segmentation by location. Because there are people that are probably target accounts that live in the same city as the event that may or may not be going to the event, but live there. So like make the most out of the trip. So the goal pre-event is to book meetings at said event. Or if you have a speaking engagement, push them to a speaking engagement. But like that's all data. And then based on data, you can then actually nuance and personalize the messaging to say, hey, last year you went to this event, didn't know if you're going to be there again. If yes, coffee's on me. Like targets plus triggers, trigger being where we may all be going to the same event, personalized nuance messaging.
Yeah.
Um, so that's data. And then distribution would be, again, it could be ad sets, it could be email, it could be any number of things. But like at the end of the day, you just got to get a message in front of them. Destination, actually, in this context, is meeting or speaking session. So we want to book a time or get them to register for our session. And then measurement of success is, did they book the meeting? Did they register for the session? So like that's pretty much it. And the way that we recommend building these things out is it's essentially you take a D a week. So
Mm.
data is 1 week. You make all your distribution the second week. You finalize all your, and you should work on distribution and destination generally at the same time. But like you get distribution content finalized in 1 week, and then you finalize destination content the following week.
Mm-hmm.
And then that third week, you operationalize the distribution stuff so that it's actually all set up so that you can
Mm-hmm.
launch it. And then the last week, you finalize all your measurement stuff and then you launch it. So ideally, you're actually launching a playbook roughly every 4 weeks to get stuff in market.
Wow, very efficient. But also when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, sometimes I have less than a week. So it's also very nice. Um, and again, these are things that people are doing already today, but they're just not doing it thinking on like that framework of
Mhm.
progressing an account, thinking again, ABM, these are the only accounts that we're looking at. We actually have a little question here. Let me show it.
Let's go.
So it's by Giovanni Hidis, sorry. Would you consider referral programs to be part of the ABM strategy?
Sure would. It's actually one of my favorites. So I'll give you a little fun tactic. Build out your EBM target account list. And then from there, one of the things that we do when we ask for referrals. So, fun fact, we actually, if you want to get a discount when working with us, we give a 2% discount for every referral that's an ICP fit that you send our way. And it's a way that we have actually now helped people meet on price, but also it's an exchange of value. And 2% I'm happy to give in exchange for a referral of my choosing. So that's super simple tactic. What we then do is we take the person that agreed to do it and we look at LinkedIn and we actually match our target account list up against their first degree connections and then send them a list of people and say, would you be open to making a referral to someone from this list? And then typically they know a few people on the list and are like, yeah, I'm happy to. So and you're like, wow, that feels really invasive. It's actually only gotten a very positive response because people want to be helpful, but they don't want to think about it. So when you say, "Hey, can you give me a referral?" They're like, "All right, I don't even know who I know." Versus when you say, "Hey, could you make a referral to one of these people?" You've actually given them constraints and they're like, "Oh, easy yes or no. Don't know, don't know, don't know, don't know. Know that guy. Super needs help. Perfect." And then they look like a hero because they're helping their friend out. You get a referral. And again, in this context, data, first degree connections, trigger, they agreed to give you a referral. You then create the message for them and like tell them, just say this. They love that because you copy and paste it over. They may change some things, but that's fine. Distribution, the referral person's email or LinkedIn DM or whatever. And then you ask them, once the person has agreed, make an introduction to all of us in one single message. Could do it over LinkedIn, could do it over email. Doesn't super matter. Destination in this context is actually book a meeting. And then direction, did we book a meeting with a referral? Yes or no?
I love how practical these tips are, by the way, Mason. This is amazing. And also getting a lot of love for the practical tips. I guess
Appreciate it.
back to the when you said like, oh, does this feel invasive? And you said no, like people want to be helpful. They just like don't want to do the work for you, which like totally fair, relatable. But it got me thinking into earlier in the conversation, right, where you said that people come in with the mindset of 30,000, 3,000, 300,000 MQLs, and they like these really big numbers. But when it trickles down, it gives you nothing. So you end up with small numbers anyway. I kind of feel the same about this method, this like tip of asking for referrals. If you ask 5 people and only one said yes, but that person referred 5 people, then you had more than what you had if you hadn't asked at all.
Mhm.
Or right. So like I think sometimes we're like, okay, we only heard back from 2. It's like, okay, but that got you 10 referrals and
Yeah.
pretty
The
great.
It's amazing. And like the math that we've done is we need to close roughly 30 customers this year between our two divisions. Coming into this year because of negotiation through discounts on 2%, we already have contractual obligations to get from our customers at least 12 referrals. Now we close at roughly 30%. So I'm going to keep my math the same, even though referrals typically close at a higher rate, but we close roughly 30%. So of the 12 that we have, we should close roughly 3 or 4 from those referrals, which means if I need to close 25 to 30, I already have 10 to 15% of my customers identified this year through one simple tactic.
Yeah.
And we chose them because we picked off our target account list. So, like, this is how ABM can be really impactful when you actually get into the nuances and the weeds of how do we operationalize this. Because also, quick tangent, what I just outlined
Please.
is a sales negotiation tactic that we have now made account based. So that requires marketing and sales alignment. So, like, when I share this with our customers of would you give up 2% of the deal to get a referral of your choosing? Most of them are like, for sure. I'm like, great. Right now, you're giving up percentages for nothing. So why don't you give up percentages and get a referral or like 10? So it's super simple things that make a very large impact.
That got me thinking when we look at this sort of breaking down your funnel in the account progression model that you described. When does marketing come in? When does sales come in? Do they come in
Yeah,
at
great question.
all times? Does sales
So
never come in? They just close the deal.
sales
I'm
is
just
very
kidding.
involved. Um,
That was a joke. That was a joke. I
I
know you
know, I
started in
know.
sales. Please, we've been getting along just fine, Mason. Let's not fight
Uh,
now.
I'm not gonna fight. Don't worry. So standard consulting answer of it depends, and then I'll give the context. So when we think about like my standardized approach is I don't want sales involved until typically meaningful engagement or MQA stage. Because what that functionally means is that these accounts are already exploring viable solutions. I most certainly don't want sales involved at the awareness stage. And that's primarily not because I want to like, I don't think sales can be helpful. I just look at it actually through a P&L lens, which is sales is a highly expensive distribution channel. So why would I use our most expensive distribution channel for the least engaged audience? Whereas I could get far greater reach and scale through far less expensive distribution channels. And again, once they've actually engaged in those places, then we prioritize sales outreach. But as a generalization, I don't want sales involved until they are exploring viable solutions or they understand our solution uniquely. And then sales is mainly focused on coming in as a partner to build the business case and help convert. Or like we have our salesperson, and our salesperson, fun fact, never asks for a meeting. The only thing he asks for is, hey, do you want to come to this webinar? Do you want to come to this workshop? Here's a podcast episode. Here's a template that we've
Mm.
been using. He is exclusively value add to opt in things. And then our programming converts people and triggers him at the right time. But he's literally never asked for a meeting in over a year that he's worked here.
Mhm.
Um, and it works
Yeah.
because we are value add partners the whole way through.
And also because you said if people want to book a call, they know how to book a call. It's in the top right corner. We all know where the book a
For
demo button
sure.
is. Um,
And we do sell with our signature. So I want to be super clear on that. Every email has book a call. So like his email signature, so if somebody wants to book a call, which people do, they click his email signature or they go to our website. They don't need help doing that. They need help having reasons to do it.
yeah, exactly. And you're also giving him reasons. Like you are also empowering your salesperson to give prospects reasons to do it.
Mhm.
If you follow
And
me.
we also, this is going to sound really weird for a second, but like we don't feel dirty reaching out to people
No.
because we don't feel like a nuisance because everything we do is literally designed to educate people, understanding that some will need our help today, some will need our help 3 years from now. But I
Yeah.
never went super hard on just like, hey, I need a meeting right now. I allowed people to progress in their timing and I made
Yeah.
sure we had the right message at the right time.
And you also don't have to put your well, for you salesperson, but for some salespeople in that position. Because I actually would say that most salespeople would agree with this approach, but I think unfortunately they've had to build very thick skin in environments where they are kind of forced to be a nuisance, right?
Yep.
I think any good salesperson would agree that like that's the worst tactic, but you know,
Yeah. It
you got to do what you
when you
got to
have a
do.
meeting quota and you got to hit it, you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
what happens?
So I wonder now, and I'm actually bringing it a little bit back just because we're speaking about your sort of sales and marketing alignment. When people come to you, um, or in your experience, people want to start ABM, is that alignment there already, or is it something that actually needs to be built?
Um, Nah, it depends. So sometimes, great. I did have a client that was at a larger organization where we did a sales team training, and I like launched into it, and she was like, "Wait, Mason, before we start." This individual said, "Hi, my name is. It's so nice to meet all of you." And I was like, "You brought me onto a sales team training, and you've never met your own sales team." So like sometimes that happens, which was
No,
that
you
was
lie.
wild.
You
So
lie.
No, I wish. So that was wild. Um, but when I look at it, if there, it's gonna sound odd, but even if there's incredible alignment, what we actually need to do, regardless, is still start small with like 1 to 3 sellers, because if you try to roll out a process that's a half-baked process to an entire organization and it doesn't work, then people will disengage. And because you've already called it ABM, then that's where the internal conversation typically has now happened where it's like, well, ABM doesn't work. And it's like, we tried it for a month. And like the first time you did something, did it work perfectly? No, of course not. But because it's such a cross-functional initiative, sorry, because it requires everybody in the organization to be a part of it, what that means is if you roll it out to everybody at first, then a lot of people are going to disengage because it doesn't work the first time. So even with great alignment, you should start super small with 1 to 3 reps. And the way that I like to think about this is one of 3 ways. So if there's a rep that's already very engaged and has an interest in things that marketing is doing, great, use that individual. If there is a rep that is on a PIP, they're willing to do anything because they are on a path to being fired. So if you can help them get back from a PIP, awesome. And the last one is if they are already extraordinary top performers that have hit their quota. Because at this point, anything above that is funny money. So they're good to go and they're willing to do some experiments. those are the three groups that I look to when trying to start an ABM program that
Mhm.
involves sales.
Yeah. What do you mean an ABM program that involves sales? Doesn't all ABM programs involve sales?
Yes, you caught me. I heard myself say it, and I was like, "Ah, shoot."
Oh, I should have let it go. I'm sorry.
No, that's all good. The only thing that I'll add on to that, the reason why is you want to build an internal business case that once you've actually proven this out is like, oh, awesome. So like marketing actually worked with these reps. And then you've got essentially the other framing that you could use to get leadership buy-in is every rep that doesn't have their the ABM team's support. That's the holdout group to actually then have a comparison between these reps got support dedicated through an account-based program, these reps didn't, which performed better.
Yeah. Boom. Another, again, about measuring, right? Measuring and proof. There you go. I want to go back to what you said because that's something that I thought about. So you started by okay, wow. Gather my thoughts. Let's try this again. You said earlier that just before that if some it's really hard to earn trust back and it's really
Yeah.
easy to lose that trust, right? So if it doesn't work, then ABM doesn't work, right? I'm assuming just because I read somewhere that most ABM programs fail. I'm assuming that your customers have tried to do this before and it has failed.
Yep.
How can marketers build, and I'm saying marketers because in my experience, they're the ones that sort of get ABM programs started. How can marketers build internal confidence to try again
Yeah.
if their first program failed?
A couple of really practical tips. Don't call it ABM. I'm not kidding. Like, I mean that super sincerely. Of like, call it activation playbooks, call it a progression model, call it growth marketing. Like, let's call it for what it is. All of these words are made up. No one knows what they mean. We all make our own definitions, and that's fine. So if ABM, like that's also why I think we made ABX, ABE, ABGTM, ABCM. And I wish those were made up. Those are all actual acronyms. So like we just kept retitling it.
Yeah, I
So
checked
that's
out after ABX, I think.
yeah, like it's just a joke at this point. So that's the honest like answer the first time is if you've done ABM in the internal sentiment is we all have this baggage from the 6 months we invested with insert thing and it didn't work. And we wasted, because the story is always, we wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars and hundreds or thousands of man hours on a thing that didn't do anything. That's the story every time.
Yeah.
So, like, rightfully so, executives' jobs are to associate resources to the highest return things.
Yeah.
So, like, the thing they didn't work. So don't call it that. Just call it anything else. Second thing, which is actually why a lot of our customers hire us, is there is belief that it works. There's also the understanding that they didn't know how to make it work. So they hire an outside firm or organization to help make it work in their organization. And there's the outside trust that proves that it will work differently.
Mhm.
And then the last, most certainly not least, is sometimes there's just change in people and change in leadership. And when that change happens, uh, there is an opportunity to try again because people may have tried it in another organization where it did work. And now there's a reason that something has changed. So I think about, I'm going to bring this back to a really practical example on like how to build a closed loss program. And I promise I'll bring it back around. But the guiding theme for every closed loss program, which is a pipeline re-engagement program, should be what's changed. So there's been a change on their side, like an industry change or a leadership change or a funding round or something. But something's changed, which makes this conversation worthwhile
Mhm.
on their side, or something's changed on our side. And as a result, this conversation is worthwhile. Think of integrations, new pricing models, an acquisition, whatever.
Yeah.
Same thing with trying to get internal buy-in on something. We tried this thing previously, it totally bombed. Here's what's changed. And as a result, we think we should try again. If you don't have a reason that it's changed, you will not get buy-in.
Yeah. Okay. So I really like what you said, like sometimes bringing in a consultancy group, kind of like Scrappy ABM, can also help with being like, hey, it didn't work because we didn't have the expertise we do now. which is also a way to bring, it's like ABM plus. Like it's a way to be like, hey, we're not going to try the same thing like we did last time. This
Mhm.
time there's a change, internal
Yeah.
or external. In terms of measurement, just to, because I was going to say that we have a little bit under 10 minutes left. So please, if you have any burning questions, I mean, you can ask now or in 5 minutes, really. But just ask them now. Yeah, I was thinking about, again, thinking of Susie. Um, she used also said this at the beginning of the session. You were like, it normally when someone goes and tries to do ABM by buying a software, it takes them like 6 months to implement, or maybe 5 months, and then by the 6 month mark, they have nothing to show for it. And you, it's Scrappy ABM, where you're trying to say, hey, listen, we need to do this fast. We need to do it with what we have, show that it works, and then we can start progressing later on. So, what are some of the early signals that you trust or you advise people to look into to prove that ABM is actually working?
Yeah, people are gonna roll their eyes on this one and I'm sorry, but like the honest answer is if you have a target account that's ever been on your website or hasn't engaged with your content ever in the first quarter, they start to engage with your stuff and they've been cold previously. Like in the first quarter, going from unaware to aware is the win. And then from there, it's getting into pipeline. So I expect pipeline within the first 6 months. And there's a couple ways that you can shortcut that. And I want to be super clear. That's a generalization. I primarily work in the mid market. If you're in the enterprise space, we have clients that are in the enterprise space where they didn't get pipeline for the first 9 months, but like
Yeah.
that's the expectation. So again, answers vary based on industries and segments. Sorry, but that said, the ways that you would shortcut it are by going after audiences that already know you exist. So I like close lost. I like lost customers. I like event activation. I like website re-engagement and pipeline acceleration and then referrals, because referrals are an easier, quicker transfer of trust. So
Mhm.
for anyone that's like not working with us, that's like, how do I get quick and easy buy-in for an ABM program?
Mhm.
If you systematically went after every lost deal that was a good fit, you systematically went after all your past customers that churned, systematically went after the right fit people that were at events, went after the people that were on your website, systematically progressed opportunities in your pipeline, and systematically generated referrals from your target account list every month, you'd probably have more pipeline.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to argue with like just starting there.
I like that. What about the inverse? Are there any metrics that you avoid early on that you're like, let's not waste our time on this? I'm guessing the 300,000 MQLs. I keep making that number bigger, by the way.
Yeah, no, it gets
You
big. I
said at
mean,
3,000 and I'm like at 300.
yeah, but there are some clients that are like that on an annual basis. So the there's even opportunities in that. And I know that's going to sound very odd, but if you measure target accounts that create MQLs and you see that percentage increase over time, then that is a viable metric you could look at.
Mhm.
So I think that all metrics are viable with context. So
Mhm.
again, if you're measuring the awareness stage based on meetings booked, you're going to be really frustrated. If you measure it based on these people have seen our ads and are engaged with our brand and
Mhm.
actually know that we exist. And again, brand recall on average takes 3 to 6 months, which means if somebody's intentionally seen your stuff, it will take them 3 to 6 months to remember that you exist.
Mhm.
So at awareness stages, that is the win. And everybody hates that answer, but it's the honest truth.
Yeah.
And that's why I like starting at accounts and audiences that already know you exist, because
Mhm.
then you can say, we try these channels, we try these offers. We can validate these offers do convert. Now we need to get more of our right fit customers to engage with these offers. So we're going to go from conversion based programming to awareness building and brand building within our target accounts. And that will take 6 to 9 months, but you've already gotten buy in. And these programs do consistently run systematically, so you can keep the pipeline a little bit more filled.
Yeah. That makes sense. We actually have a question from Nisa Schmitz. Let me
Let's
pull it up
go.
right now. If I learn how to use a computer, there we go. How does an ABM approach differ if you're marketing a service versus a product? Easy
Great,
question.
I think. So, fun fact: I market services as a service provider, and on our podcast arm, it's actually mainly service-based companies. Whereas on the like full-scale ABM program side, it's mainly product software companies. And admittedly, your margins are different. So when we think about, we didn't talk about this like at all, but when I think about targeting, I actually think about our highest profit customers. And then you can do very expensive things relative to the LTGP to CAC ratio, which is like how much money do we get gross profit for what we invest in them. So a software company typically, or a product company typically, unless it's a physical good, have higher margins than services companies. So admittedly, you can spend more. Like that's the number one thing. You have more money to spend because you will get more money for the customers that you acquire. Outside of that, I recommend productizing your service. So if you productize the service, it's relatively similar because services and products both sell because they solve problems. And you have to frame whatever you're doing, whether it be product or service, around how it solves the problem that they're trying to solve. So I know that's a slight cop out answer, but like admittedly, we have a productized service. So we sell it just like the same way that all of our product customers sell their products. Um, so that would be the only thought. The other thing that you can do as a service provider, to the best of your ability, that we don't often see that product companies do super well, is giving stuff away for free. So if you know your conversion metrics and what you can afford to give away, for us, it costs us roughly $20,000 to acquire a customer. So about 10 grand of that is marketing, 10 grand of that is sales. So I know I actually have 10 grand to play with for referrals. So what we do on the referral side is we give 5 grand to the person that referred the work to us and 5 grand to the company as a discount. So everybody wins in that situation. And for me, it's just CAC.
Yeah.
So I'm outlining, if you're a product company, you probably have more money to play with. If you're a service company, you have less money to play with, but you can be more creative because you can actually give more stuff away for free. And people don't like that answer, but like, if they're a best customer that's going to stay with you for 2 years, it's worth probably spending 20, 30, 40 hours to make something super specific and bespoke to them. And you do that 4 times a month and you get a customer that stays with you for 2 years. It's a
Yeah.
great trade.
Yeah. It's good math.
Yeah. And like, I guess that's the long and short is like, how does it differ? Know your numbers, and then you can play with your numbers differently.
Yeah. I love that there's been several times where you're like, people don't like that answer, but I'm right.
It's
No, I love
it's
that.
just
No, do not change that. That's amazing. We have like 1 minute, and I want to dedicate. I had a lightning round. I'm just going to pick one question from the lightning round, and
let's
is
go.
one thing you, and it's lightning, so fast. One thing you'd ban from ABM programs. Go.
AI.
Oh my god, we have like less than a minute. Are you going to explain? You can explain fast. You have to explain fast.
Um, AI tools are the next wave of ABM tools. They're just cheaper, but they are still a gigantic waste of time if you don't have a good strategy. So I did a whole webinar yesterday where somebody was just trying to pull out at me like, what AI tools are you using? I said, I'm not going to make tool recommendations because you just build with what you've got right now. And then same with you implement different tools. It's just AI is a new tool. So once you've proven it, then scale it using AI. But
Mhm.
like, to start, don't. Or the other side, fun fact, is that AI is really, really great at scale. You know what ABM is not supposed to be? Scale. Like, you're supposed to keep it focused. So the
Yeah.
ability to create, anyway, sorry, that's a whole other soapbox.
Focus, niche down, personalized.
Yes.
Which is a great way to end it, but a better way to end it is, if people wanna follow your work or learn more about Scrappy ABM, where do they go? What do they do? Tell us.
Yeah. Easiest and best way is go to scrappyabm.com/newsletter. We publish lots of content that is all designed to be helpful. And if you liked this and you're like, man, I would love to spend 8 hours with this guy. First of all, don't know why. Second, go to scrappyabm.com/workshop. We host a once a month 8 hour workshop. And as a thank you for listening to this, use 50 off and you'll get a 50% discount, which means it's like $100 to come spend 8 hours.
Wow. Well, that was a beautiful way to end it. Thank you so much, Mason, for joining us.
Thank
Actually,
you.
some questions came last minute, so you're just gonna have to find Mason. I'm really sorry because we got to wrap it up. I just want to say thank you again for joining us. Everyone that came and listened, thank you so much. And remember that you can find this and other episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Attributed by Dream Data.